Someone has actually dug into the No Man's Sky files and discovered the secret to how it produces random creatures that populate the planets. And he has also found out why some things appeared in the trailers that didn't make it into the game. Let's give it some thought. What is going on, you wonderful thought-having people you? Give it thought, back here today for another No Man's Sky discussion video. And I wanted to talk about this because while No Man's Sky isn't the best game out there, it is pretty interesting that each planet you go to has the opportunity to host a variety of different fauna and flora. Basically, some planets have weird looking plants and animals, and I found that after many hours of playtime, that is what I now look forward to when entering a new solar system. Greg K. Waste, a technical game blogger, has now sifted through all the game's files and has an explanation for why some creatures turn out looking so derpy. So weirdo Frankenstein monsters aside, let's get right into this blog post and see what No Man's Sky's procedural generation is all about. Just to start things off, this post is kind of technical in its language, so I'll do my best to make it more digestible. The author begins by commenting on how small the game's file size is. He says this is because the game works on a very small set of assets in order to create literally hundreds of variants using procedural generation. And after playing for a while, that is completely obvious. A lot of the creatures can look eerily similar. There was even a joke card game that was made that highlighted this fact. Anyway, Greg K. Waste quickly gets into the geometry of the game, which is what is used to model these random creatures, plants, and even ships. According to the blog, the game loads assets in a scene graph way. This means that all model assets are defined as separate game files. This means that it takes the geometry files individually and loads them into scenes. Think of it as a hierarchy. Say a fish is deemed necessary by the code because water is around. Then a fish part is randomly retrieved from the geometry bin. Based on that part, other parts are aggregated quickly into a random fish to fit that environment. All of this is pretty cool, but it isn't mind-blowing by any standards. Then the author came across what are called descriptor files. I don't want to go into what those are just yet, but the thing he found interesting was that they only correlated to the randomly generated stuff, like the weird creatures you see tromping around on planets. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't everything procedurally generated? No, it's not. Data miners found astronaut models in the game shortly after release, and these are not random at all. Because these descriptor files don't adhere to the astronaut, we never see him or her in the game. That is what is interesting to me about all this. And it doesn't end there. But to return to those descriptor files really quickly, all they do is decide what on the creature will be the head or the tail or maybe even the feet. Basically, it is a template for the geometry files to follow. The descriptors are what dictate the hierarchy I mentioned a second ago, and without them, we'd be seeing something like the centaurs from Fallout 3 running around. The author then goes on to how the randomness is achieved within the game. Each geometry file has a chance property, and all that does is decide if it will be selected to be included in the creation. To create an actual random construct, the chance property is set to 0 in pretty much all of them. The author explains this by saying, the actual probabilities for the part selection are either decided on runtime by the engine or they are set in some other game parameter files. That right there is what I was talking about when I said it goes further than that. So many people saw the No Man's Sky trailers and know that a lot of the stuff shown off was not even in the game. Or was it? Okay, most everything that was missing is still missing. But this blog explains why one particular thing might be hard to find in the game. And that thing is the diplodocus I showed in the teaser. The author says he has nearly 70 hours in the game, and I have almost double that, and neither of us have seen one of those long-necked dinosaurs. And yes, I grew up calling those things long necks like every other kid who watched The Land Before Time. But Greg K. Waste explains their absence saying, those diplodocus parts' chance of selection is so small that they end up super rare in the game. He continues, from examining quite all the creature models in the game files, I can say that there is tons of content which, due to the engine decisions, doesn't appear very often or at all in the game. So with that bit of information, we can see that the diplodocus model is in fact in the game. We just aren't finding it, or either the game is set up in such a way that it hinders us from doing so. He explains how they had it in the trailers because they could alter the engine to make it appear whenever they wanted, but they must have turned it back off after release. He finishes up the first section of the blog by saying, the mind-blowing thing about this generation procedure is that if they had double the number of people working exclusively on the creature art, the game content just for the creatures would be hundreds of times larger. And this fact alone shows me the capabilities and the potential that the No Man's Sky game engine has. That is exactly what I have been saying from the beginning. Although Hello Games really messed up a game, they did come across procedural generation code that I hope other developers make use of in the future. The blog goes on for a little while after that, but I just wanted to talk about why the diplodocus wasn't in the game. So if you want to go read the rest of it, I'll leave a link down in the description. So what do you think about this? Does it lessen your hatred at the No Man's Sky developers now that you know everything wasn't left out of the game? Or is this just something trivial to you and doesn't impact your opinion one way or the other? I'm kind of on that side. But tell me what you think about it down in the comments. And I think that's where I'm going to end things today. If you enjoyed this video, you know what you have to do. Hit that like button for me, and if you're new here, why not subscribe? I put out a new video every single day, and if you want to be caught up on the latest gaming news, especially about No Man's Sky, this is the channel to be subscribed to. And if you missed one of yesterday's videos, the one I recommend is the Nintendo Switch reveal. I talk about some things I noticed in the trailer, so if you're interested in that, go check that video out. But I think that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, give thought to everything.